In the 1970s, a charming and intelligent young man brought unprecedented terror to communities across the western United States. His aberrant psychology allowed him to turn on a disarming persona that helped him gain the trust of countless young women before he turned violent. This is the horrific true story of serial killer Ted Bundy. Theodore Robert Bundy was born in 1946 in Vermont to an unmarried mother. He relocated to Washington as a child and later enrolled at the University of Washington, majoring in psychology. To most, Bundy appeared to be a friendly, focused, and articulate student. Friends described him as smart, charismatic, even-keeled, and having a bright future ahead of him. But behind that suave mask festered an unsettling darkness that was about to be unleashed in a spree of shockingly depraved crimes. In 1974, Bundy began acting on his long-suppressed violent sexual fantasies, meticulously hunting, kidnapping, sexually assaulting, and murdering young women in Washington and Oregon. He employed a variety of chilling ruses to lure his unsuspecting victims, often approaching them feigning injury by wearing a fake cast or using crutches, portraying a helpless person who needed assistance carrying something to his vehicle. His good looks, earnest demeanor, and quiet confidence quickly won over his prey's trust before he turned savage, delivering vicious blows to their heads and raping them. The scenes of the attacks were haunting, strewn with blood, clumps of hair, and torn scraps of the victim's clothing. Bundy was incredibly skilled at covering his tracks and keeping a low profile as the bodies piled up across the Pacific Northwest over the next few years. He moved with supernatural ease between middle-class normalcy and psychopathic killing sprees, always just another clean-cut young man in the crowd when he wasn't engaged in unspeakable brutality. His arrogance was unshakable. Thinking himself smarter than law enforcement, he believed he could never be caught as long as he maintained control. And so he continued to stalk, abduct, and murder women across multiple states in a frenzy of predatory violence. On two separate occasions in 1976 and 1977, Bundy managed the seemingly impossible, escaping from police custody in Colorado and slipping away, going on the run, and continuing his unchecked rampage of rape, murder, and necrophilia across Utah, Idaho, and finally Florida, before being apprehended a third and final time in 1978. The public was left reeling that such a monster was on the loose, possibly able to strike anywhere at any time. His arrogance and narcissism convinced Bundy that he could always stay one step ahead through careful planning and improvisation. Finally, after eluding justice for years, Bundy was put on trial in Miami in 1979 for the especially brutal attack on the Chi Omega sorority house that left two young women dead. Details emerged of his shocking depravity: the planned, premeditated hunting and kidnapping, savage beatings with a metal rod, rapes, bite marks left on victims' bloodied bodies, and chilling evidence like a disgusting mask made of one woman's hair found in his infamous Volkswagen Beetle vehicle. Bold and utterly remorseless, Bundy took to questioning witnesses himself during the televised trial proceedings, angling for any opportunity to throw the hearings awry through his mastery of legal maneuvering and impassioned grandstanding. On July 24, 1979, the jury took less than 7 hours to convict him and recommend death sentences for the shocking, depraved murders of two innocent young sorority sisters. In the decade after his conviction, Bundy hired a high-priced team of defense lawyers in a desperate, narcissistic attempt to have his death sentences overturned through appeal after appeal. But the courts repeatedly rejected his claims of mistrial, bias, and mental incompetence. Witnesses remained steadfast in placing the still charming Bundy at the grisly crime scenes. As Bundy sat on death row in Florida, some of his final confessions revealed the full extent of his evil acts. The rape, murder, and decapitation of over 100 women and young girls across many states in just a 4-year span of incomprehensible savagery. The case both captivated and horrified the nation, and indeed the world. His magnetic personality, keen intelligence, and boy-next-door appearance stood in stark contrast to the predatory animal brutality of his crimes. How could such a seemingly normal, privileged young man devolve into such a depraved monster? Even on death row, Bundy cultivated an almost celebrity-like following of fans who appeared blind to the staggering inhumanity of his trail of mutilated victims. Despite staying hopeful of endless appeals to his final moments, Bundy's options were ultimately exhausted. Finally, on January 24, 1989, at the age of 42, Bundy's reign of terror ended when he was executed by electric chair at the Florida State Prison. To the very end, he never fully admitted to the depths of his depravity, even as the list of disappeared and murdered women linked to him across half the country grew to nearly 100 names, their lives stolen and futures erased by an evil the likes of which most cannot comprehend. Ted Bundy represented the very depths of human cruelty and perversion, masked by boyish charm and sophistication. His meticulous methods, remorselessness, arrogance, and ability to revel in his own infamy have seared his name into the darkest corners of true crime history as a new kind of hyper-predator. While these horrific events are disturbing to recount, perhaps society's reckoning with aberrant personalities like Bundy can help prevent future tragedies through study and awareness. But the true victims are the many women and young girls whose lives he stole in his merciless rampage across America, depriving them of their bright futures. If you want to learn more about other notorious serial killers and true crime cases, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Let me know which killer you'd like me to cover next in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next chilling video.